This episode of Pool Magazine Podcast is proudly sponsored by Basecrete Technologies, the industry leader in cementitious waterproofing. Basecrete is the #1 all-in-one waterproof membrane and bond coat, delivering unmatched strength, superior adhesion, and long-term flexibility. Its proprietary blend of polymers and specialized additives makes it the go-to choice for protecting and repairing concrete in pools, spas, and beyond. When it comes to waterproofing, experienced pool professionals trust Basecrete. For more information, visit us on the web at basecretetechnologies.com.
Welcome back to the Pool Magazine podcast. I'm your host, Joe Trusty, editor of Pool Magazine, and today we're excited to explore the world of custom waterfalls and rock work with one of the most talented professionals in the industry. Joining us is Sean Mangan, a highly skilled builder, designer, and artist with Rockscapes Canada. Sean and his firm have made a name for themselves through their innate ability to blend form and function, turning artificial rock and natural stone into stunning focal points that elevate pool and outdoor living spaces. I hope that wasn't too big of a build-up, Sean, but we're pleased to have you here with us today on the show.
Yeah, pleased to be here. And that was a great build-up. I don't think I've had any kind of build-up like that to date. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, Sean, to kick this conversation off, maybe could you give us a little bit of background about Rockscapes Canada, who you guys are, what your mission is, and what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So this year is a special year for us. We celebrated 40 years in December. And that was started by my parents in 1984. So they kicked everything off. They got into the artificial rock business. They started with, something that sadly is not quite around anymore with Ontario Place's Wilderness Ride. That was our first project. And they've been doing it for a very long time. And my brother and I run it now. So we're second generation rockscapers. We've done it for zoos, aquariums, obviously theme parks, and then we've also brought it into some pretty special backyards.
Oh, it seems like it kind of runs in the blood a little bit, but I know so many people where their parents are involved in an industry and then they just want to go the opposite way. I mean, what inspired you specifically to specialize in waterfalls? Was there a light bulb moment for you when you thought, this is it, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, that actually came a bit later, even a couple of years ago. And I think, as you mentioned, when it comes to family, there's times where you butt heads, things, maybe sometimes I did want to run in the opposite direction. But I was surrounded by a pretty great group of guys there when I was coming up in the industry, and they really taught me a lot of things. So that sort of inspired me from putting the tools in my tool belt and developing my skills. And then, a couple years ago, it became that, now I have a voice. I have all the control. So now if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this with my kind of stamp on it. And my brother, we're very supportive of each other. So we get along really, really well. And nobody hypes us up like we do each other. We talk several times a day. And regardless of the project, we are collaborating constantly and just brainstorming a lot to try and get the best out of each design. So that's a huge motivator for me. You need those people in your life, and it's quite the blessing for us to be there for each other in that way. So we're pretty grateful.
Yeah, it's great that you have your brother to back you up like that. I mean, you guys are like the principal design and build guys at the firm. Now, when you're approaching a new design, what's the most important element to get right when creating a waterfall that kind of complements the overall backyard aesthetic, whether that means blending it into a pool or a full landscape?
Yeah, I think it's pretty important to us being that artificial rock is kind of the goal. And we've seen a lot of, kind of hokey looking things out there prior to the market, which sort of, almost dared us to get into the pool landscaping side of things and the pool waterfalls. But mainly, like anywhere that we do a project, we do want it to look like this rock was here, and then we built a house or a pool around it. So it's always trying to have that natural scape and that element so it blends into the overall landscaping. Little details that are important for us, like putting any hardscaping or poolscaping up against it so it looks like it's recessed, like it was there, and then we built around this thing. So there's lots of opportunity for traditional materials to work their way with our design. And we think it adds levels, right? There's things you can do with planting, there's things you can do with the hardscaping, wood decking, like anything that's just going to add that extra level. If it was just a rock on its own, it probably wouldn't sell the feature as it does by complementing the overall design and backyard.
Sure, sure. I get it. I mean, I know you're looking for ways to make this a natural and organic element in the backyard, and you guys do a tremendous job at that. I've seen your YouTube channel and watched a bunch of your videos, so I know how good you guys are. But can you take us a little bit deeper, though? I mean, can you walk us through your process of working with a client, from that very first interaction all the way to the final reveal?
Yeah, we've had a couple different ways. You mentioned you were watching one of our videos there. You probably saw the really larger than life water feature. That one started out in a way that it was like originally designed in real rock. So then we are trying to sort of fit within the architect's vision. Not a lot of design play there, but more functionality. But then you have some of our, smaller homeowner style grotto builds, and you're trying to give them that special feel, right? Like that they're operating on another level. So a lot of it has to do with what kind of backyard are we working with? Like what's the topography of the backyard? Is it flat? Is there like a gift of a hill that we can play into? What kind of feel do we want to get? Sometimes if we're talking to a client, and you're doing a deal or you're sitting and collaborating with them, you're doing it maybe in their kitchen, say, is a pretty neutral ground, right? And then it's like, so from the kitchen and the patio, where is your visual of this water feature at all times? Because it's not just about when you're out by the pool, it's you're going to be able to visually see the water flowing regardless where you're in your living room. Like, what's the main focus window that you're going to get to enjoy this every single day, whether you're sitting poolside or not? Because poolside is one thing that is not just aesthetics, but then we're factoring like the audio sensory as well. And you just want to have that calming, like how much money do people spend on white noise, right? So you're adding that level for them when they're out and they're being encompassed by the sound of the water flowing and the visuals of this sheet falls, as well as the way that you interact with each feature. So there's a ton of things that go into it, especially the bigger ones. You need to have a real conversation with the owner and see how they plan on interacting with the feature to begin with, whether they want to swim into it, access it like a grotto through the water, whether they want to access their grotto from outside as well, and then are we building a cave system, what kind of maintenance they would like. Our stuff is different than a lot of other people's stuff where it's hollow underneath. So this gives us a couple advantages. Sometimes we can hide pool equipment. So there's quite a bit to go in there, as well as what type of rock do we want it to look like? Are we thinking a granite? Are we thinking sandstone, like a beachy theme? Are we thinking something local, like around where we are, where we have some great limestone caves? All these things come together to really create the vision that's going to be unique for that homeowner. There's no two builds that we've ever done that are the same. So we want them to feel like they got something completely custom.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, the type of clients that you serve want that natural look in their backyard, and that audio sensory connection definitely comes into play. I mean, people want the look of natural stone and artificial rock, kind of helps them achieve that look with materials that really aren't that cost prohibitive, right?
As
Yeah.
you said, materials are super, super important. You see, I'm sure you've seen it, but there's a lot of real rock water features. And we prefer the artificial rock from a weight standpoint. So that's where we typically stay in our lane on that one. But we have done a couple natural boulder style features. Typically, though, if we're going to do a natural style pond or feature, then it's going to be separated from the pool. So it's like an extra piece. But if we're next to the pool, we prefer our artificial rock method.
How much creative freedom do your clients typically give you in terms of the design build process?
It's a bit funny because they give us a fair bit of freedom, mostly, begrudgingly, I'm going to say, because it's hard to, other than maybe some 3D modeling, some design or sketches, there's a lot of trust in that relationship at first. And, I'm happy to say that we've made a lot of people very happy. So that trust really helps. And of course, now they're able to watch us on our social media. So now they're able to sort of get to know us through that and sort of see what the process is going to be. But before that was available, you almost had to take my word for it that this is going to be amazing, which, as you're going through each step of the build process, there's are times where people get pretty nervous until they see the final result. So they don't want to get in the way, so they do give me a fair bit of freedom, But at the same time, there's a lot of check-ins usually early on if they're not used to the process.
Well, you guys are definitely out there. I mean, you're at a lot of different things. You aren't hard to find. So, I mean, we see your work in a lot of different places, but I imagine people come to you because you're like the experts and, they want a guy who's like, that's their lane. Material selection must be both like an art and a science kind of in your world. I mean, how do you go about choosing the right rocks, the right finishes, or what kind of features to ensure that it not only looks amazing, but it functions perfectly too?
Usually there's a period of time where even if they don't realize they need it, we're going to recommend samples. You want like a reveal for sure at the end, but you don't want necessarily surprises. And I'm sure we've all watched that, that flipper show, like house flipper
Yeah,
show, where they come in and the design's done for them and they're like, I don't know if I like it, and they
right, right.
decide to list it. You know? Like, so we don't want that kind of reaction. We want them to mostly know what to expect from a color standpoint, from a texture standpoint. So we do usually provide samples. We like to have sketches. We like to have the 3D models. We want to give them a sense of what we're building. And sometimes even with the 3D models, and now, materials are, when it comes to those types of programs, it's really great how close we can get it. And I even to the point where the last one that I did, they're like, so how's it going to look? And I'm like, exactly like this. Like exactly what I just sent you. 3D image to scale all the way around. This is what it's going to look like.
Yeah, the social stuff's got to help though, Sean. They can go on your
Oh yeah,
social and see examples of the work that you did. That kind of connects the dots for them, right?
absolutely. I mean, if when we get the inquiries, usually you can start to onboard your future client. You can chat with them a little bit, and if they're wondering, what, like you said, what type of rock style or any other questions they might have, it's a lot easier to just say, why don't you take a look at this playlist and maybe we set up a chat tomorrow, and then that way they get to hopefully be slightly entertained, but also really see what process they should expect. And they get to see a couple process builds and finish builds of different styles. So they can sort of pick and choose from there, and it really helps them start to develop their vision. So it's been invaluable.
No, you insinuated this a little earlier in our conversation, but for me at Pool Magazine, I mean, we see a lot of backyards where there's a rock element, but not every application is like a home run. Some of them look
Mhm.
easy and tacked on. And in my opinion, if you're going to do a rock element, there's a right and wrong way to do it. In your experience, I mean, what are some of the common mistakes that you see people making out there when it comes to incorporating a waterfall into their backyard?
I think real rock is, even though we're modeling after real rock, but when you get those stacked stone water features, you have to go about it in a different way. So, especially from a waterproofing standpoint. So, like I said, ours is hollow. So, typically I can go underneath it, which is really nice that I can waterproof the top of it, water test it, go underneath, make sure that it is waterproof before I do my finishing textures on it, which has been really handy. I can also then isolate exactly where the waterways are going to be and make sure that is perfectly waterproof. So all that gets my attention. When it comes to real rock features, you're basically putting a liner under the whole thing because water finds its way, especially with real rock in nature, with real rock that's stacked. Even if you think you've gotten every single crevice, it's porous. Like there's no way to completely waterproof it. So to a point, you're almost planning on that thing leaking all the way down. And so that's why there's a liner under the whole thing. A couple of other mistakes that I've had is like overloading it with the real rock, and it's caused damage to the side of the pools. Again, over time, you might see the water feature start to not sag, but it starts to sort of settle underneath maybe the pad on the back. So I've, been called in to look at water features that the water's going out the back instead of the front now. There's a lot of those issues because weight is a real factor when it comes to the real rocks. So that's why I always say, like, it's kind of risky to put it up against the pool and put it on the pool coping, even if you think you have a big enough pad there. The weight over time and the settling of the ground underneath the pad can be an X factor that, might be a problem that you find out 8 to 10 years later. But nobody buys a feature like that and want to redo it in 8 to 10 years, right? So it's important to sort of do that kind of research on the engineering side and the weight and load. I've seen pools cracked in half. It's a nightmare. It's an awful thing to go into those situations and tell them that you can't be the one to help them,
Sure. I
you
mean, like
know?
you're the expert in that specific arena, Sean. I mean, are you frequently collaborating with the pool builder to make sure that, that's feasible to add that kind of feature?
We have been more and more. There's a couple of the bigger pool companies that we've worked with that now we have that relationship with. I will say it took a long time to get in there, and from our standpoint, we've had to typically we're brought in by the client themselves. Like they have to really want us to be a part of it because I'm sure you can understand that from a pool builder's perspective, they want to come in, do the best job that they can, and then move on to the next build. So when they see stuff like us, which is creative element, it's a little bit harder to that's their trust element as well, not just the clients, but now they have to trust that I'm going to be on time and that I'm going to make sure that this build goes smoothly and I'm not going to be that X factor that's going to trip them up. So yeah, trust is a huge part of that side of the build. And now I am fortunate enough to say that I've worked with enough of the big companies that we have that trust.
Yeah, I mean, I could see. I mean, you did casinos, you're doing zoos and aquariums, you're a member of the Pool and Hot Tub Council of Canada member, so you're vested in that. I could see
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something, Sean. I mean, let me ask you something, Sean. A couple of years back, Texas had this huge late season freeze. I don't know if you heard about it, but I mean, for us in the United States, it just knocked the heck out of pools. And I saw a few waterfalls that were frozen and cracked. One homeowner on Reddit showed a photo of his waterfall completely totaled. Still, I'd say most of them survived none the worse for wear. I guess it's all how you build them. But from your standpoint as a builder, how do you ensure that the waterfall that you design works well in different climates? I mean, especially in areas with that kind of freeze thaw temperature cycle.
Oh yeah, I mean we have climates all over the place here in Ontario. So, there's big swings here. I guess I would say that because we are where we are, we have a material that can handle the beating that winter gives it and the ice. And then when it comes to the piping for these water features, it's part of your regular pool shutdown. So, unless you're an indoor pool, you're planning a shutdown every single year up here. So ours would be the same. So whereas they, blow out the lines for the jets, they would just blow out the lines for our feature as well. And for us, we use integral color a lot, so you don't have to worry so much about covering the feature. It's going to be there. It's going to be able to take it. The biggest thing you got to worry about is those pipes, because the pipes will, for sure, if you leave water in those, we've seen some terrible instances where the pipe is completely cracked, and that's never good.
I know as the design build end of the firm, it's your responsibility to stay engaged with what's hot and trending so that you can come up with designs that resonate with your customers. I mean, what are some of the latest trends or innovations in waterfall design that you've seen gaining popularity today?
I think the swimming grotto is huge. There seems to be a real big push towards multifunctional space. So I think years ago, the feature was literally just meant to be there and be seen from across the pool. And now people are finding ways to interact, climb it, use it as a rock jump, even though we say for safety purposes that is never recommended. But, they'll use it for a rock jump into the pool. There's some pretty interesting water slides now. So, like, they want a cave going over the water slide. I've seen them where there's like mini bars inside the caves and these massive grottos that we can do. So, there's a lot of really interesting trends, but it does, when it's boiled right down to it, it really is just about how they're going to interact with the feature. Years ago too, for budget, people would be like, "Well, why do I have to incorporate lighting?" And it was like, "Well, are you just buying this feature to enjoy it during the daytime, or do you want to be able to look outside and see, this feature at night as well? You're not just want to be able to hear it at night when you're outside. You want it to be lit up." So it's like each little element like this adds something to it, and it's only really evolved from there to how much more people can get in and out around the feature. How can we be a part of this more? So that just usually means it gets bigger and better, more crazy things get added onto it. But yeah, ultimately, it's about how they interact with it, I think, has evolved.
Yeah, sky's the limit. I mean, I've been on the website, your guys' social media, really impressive portfolio work. you share a memorable project where you created a particularly unique or challenging waterfall design?
I think I'm gonna go with, man, there's a couple. I guess it depends on the time of my career, but I'd say earlier on I did something for a hotel down in London, Ontario. And to make that like this winding, it was 3 stories, it was 35 feet high, and it had this winding slide that went down through a cave system. And doing that, I was 19 years old. Sometimes I still look at it and I'm like, man, did I peak on that one? Does it not get better from there? But because it was just so intricate and there was that we were allowed a lot of creative freedom. But then, even things as like last year where I had a really large, water feature. We had this massive, basically theme park style slide. That was 3 stories as well in somebody's backyard. They let me test that slide, so that one's going to go down in the books as pretty memorable for me to go down that at 43 years old. I probably will never be the same, but that one was really interesting to be a part of that project, so that one will stand out.
Awesome. I mean, I know you guys teach a lot. You're involved with trying to elevate the industry and educate the trade on applications, the right way to do things. I saw the video of your live carving at World of Concrete. By the way, that's a fantastic show. So
Oh yeah,
I want to give them a little plug there. I watched the time lapse video of the team and Pedrick and you guys doing a artificial rock application. In just a couple days time, you guys showed how to do a realistic rock wall with moss and stumps. You guys went all out on the demo and had a little smoke machine going to give the whole thing a fantasy vibe. I loved it. I
it's
mean,
Vegas.
yeah, it's awesome.
You
I
have to
mean,
you have to go big for Vegas, right?
yeah, absolutely. And you guys definitely did. I mean, it looks like you guys had a great time at the show. I was hoping I could get you to talk a little bit about why education is such a big deal to you guys.
Well, I think we felt that coming into an industry that everybody is sort of keeping their craft pretty close to their chest. And in this day of social media, it's out there. Anybody that's still trying to hold it close and be like, I'm special, like what you do is out there. And I think there's such an opportunity to create community. The first year we did the World of Concrete, that really sung to us because we had quite the small social media following at that point, and yet people were coming up to us and saying, "Hey, I follow you on Instagram." And I was like, "You're the one?" Like, who? Are you sure? You sure us? And then they're like describing me or my brother perfectly. I was like, "Oh my God, people are actually following us." And being down so far away from home, down in Vegas, and having people say that they literally came to come see us, we've created relationships with those people online, different other companies that maybe we get to collaborate with one day. Maybe we just get to like talk them through their first build, but yeah, either way, it is never good to be in any kind of industry without feeling like there's nobody to turn to come up with the best, you want to put your best foot forward for whatever client you get. So to feel like it's all on you and, maybe you don't have all the information that you need, why we don't want people to feel that way. Like I'm not as afraid that people are gonna steal our style and then take it and go do their own company. Like I'd just rather people know what the best way to do, maybe avoid some harsh errors, like I said, like cracked pools. There's other materials out there. There's other ways of doing it. And I guess we're just trying to get it out there that this is our way. And if anybody is interested in learning about it, like this, you'll find it here, right?
Yeah, no, I love what you guys are doing. I mean, you're super transparent about the way that you guys are doing things. And I mean, it's real wholesome. It's something that people can connect with. I mean, finally, for homeowners, builders, and designers, maybe that are considering adding a waterfall to the backyard, what are your top tips for achieving the perfect waterfall that's going to enhance their outdoor space?
Well, I think again, it comes down to the layers. I think that, a lot of people they blow their budget with size. They want that like almost like Hugh Hefner size feature. And that's not necessarily in everybody's budget. And I don't think everybody should have to feel the pressure to, go all out in that way because there's a lot of ways to enhance features. It doesn't just have to be how big it is. Like I said, there's lighting, there's planting, there's a lot of ways that you can give this sort of tropical feel with the feature. I did a smaller feature last year, and it was only 4.5 feet high, but I was able to do tiers, and they kind of wanted visually it to space out. So instead of like a traditional, just this is your little cave grotto in the corner, I actually brought out different levels of the rock out to the middle of the pool. And then I had two other smaller features off of there. So, it was all the same piping and they'll all three will flow together. So if you have the smaller ones on, it's going to help create that central visual effect. And then to create because the pool was already there and it was a rectangle pool, you can't then build out to create these swim up grottos. So we cheated the corner of the pool so that you could create that swim in feel. So there's a lot of little ways that you can sort of make it the best that you can. But I think it's a mix of, what kind of sounds do you want? So does that mean a sheet falls? That's going to dictate what kind of plumbing you need. Don't cheap out on the plumbing. If you're getting something that big and you only have a trickle, you're going to be upset. And then, yeah, work with the landscape designer to see how you can complement it with either trees or shrubs. Make sure that the hardscaping guys are on board because they're probably going to have to do some extreme cuts around our stuff. But, from my experience, a real professional, they love being part of what we do. So, that's what I guess attitude is a big thing. Make sure that when whoever you're dealing with has a great attitude, is excited about the project, and wants the best for you.
Sean, man, thanks so much for joining us today and giving us a deeper look into the creative and technical side of what you guys do at Rockscapes Canada. It's been great hearing about your creative approach and the level of thought that goes into the work you guys do.
Absolutely. Anytime. I'd love to come back.
For our listeners, if you're considering adding a custom waterfall or rock feature to your backyard, definitely check out Rockscapes Canada. Their work speaks volumes, and their commitment to craftsmanship sets them apart in the world of outdoor design. You'll find their work featured in Pool Magazine, where we showcase the best the industry has to offer. You can learn more and see some of their incredible projects at rockscapescanada.com. That's a wrap for today's episode. A big thank you to our sponsor, Basecrete Technologies, the definitive cementitious waterproofing membrane for the pool and spa industry, as well as to you guys, our loyal listeners who keep tuning in and coming back to learn about the leaders who are elevating this industry and doing great things in the pool world. I love the feedback on social and the emails. You guys are awesome, and you guys are why we do what we do. So keep tuning in and make sure to like, share, follow, and subscribe. Before we wrap today, I want to mention that Pool Magazine's big on social. We have like 200,000 people following us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, but we haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to LinkedIn, and we're going big on that this year. Recently, we launched a LinkedIn group specifically for professionals in the pool and outdoor living industry. There's a few different groups out there, but aren't really regularly maintained, and we want to shake things up a bit with a great place to connect with builders, designers, manufacturers, and other pros who are passionate about what they do. If you're looking to stay in the loop, share your work, or just be part of the conversation, we'd love to have you join us. Just search for Pool and Spa Industry Professionals on LinkedIn and request to join. We'll also include a link to that in the show notes. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast.
This episode of Pool Magazine Podcast is proudly sponsored by Basecrete Technologies, the industry leader in cementitious waterproofing. Basecrete is the #1 all-in-one waterproof membrane and bond coat, delivering unmatched strength, superior adhesion, and long-term flexibility. Its proprietary blend of polymers and specialized additives makes it the go-to choice for protecting and repairing concrete in pools, spas, and beyond. When it comes to waterproofing, experienced pool professionals trust Basecrete. For more information, visit us on the web at basecretetechnologies.com.